Well, as the PM heads to the G7 summit in Cornwall via Singapore, much has been made of his comments in Perth yesterday concerning the threat posed by China. Now, he did focus on the importance of nations adhering to their trade agreements and the need to police any threat to the rule of law. But Scott Morrison also walked a tightrope on the prospect of China posing a threat to security.
The Indo-Pacific region, our region, is the epicentre of renewed strategic competition, and the risks of miscalculation and conflict are very present and growing.
Now, before departing Perth, the PM had talks with WA Premier Mark McGowan, and on the subject of China, the Labor leader said the pair agreed to disagree with the federal government's statements.
All this language I see come out of the Commonwealth Government about us going to war with China. I have never heard something so insane in my life.
Let's bring in former Major General Senator Jim Molan. Jim, welcome to the program. How's the cancer fight going, by the way?
Chris, it's going, I can assure you, and some of the results I've got have been very, very positive.
Great.
So I'm well into the chemo now. I have my second chemo period tomorrow. And joy, oh joy, it just gets better and better and better.
I'm glad you can say it in that mode. That's a good way to handle it. The Prime Minister is talking a lot about national security, but will it lead anywhere after the G7, do you think, Jim?
I certainly hope it will, Chris, because it must. To see the Premier of Western Australia say that he heard the word war, or he thought that the Prime Minister was talking about war. The Prime Minister stays away from the use of that word, quite rightly in my view. I certainly don't. I think it's something that we must talk about. This country is much more than just an economy. It's a liberal democracy with values and interests, and we must never, ever forget that, and we are being challenged. So the big problem that I have is that I thought the Prime Minister's speech was fabulous. And I think generally the response to that speech has been very, very good. As good a response as his speech in the middle of last year when there was a strategic update. So both of those speeches have been just superb. But what the challenge for all of us in government now is to ensure that the logical consequences that flow from that speech, that is the nation self-reliant and resilient? Is the Australian Defence Force lethal enough? Is it sustainable enough? That is, going to fight for long enough?
Well, the answer to that is no, Jim, as you know. No, we're not a lethal force. So how do we become a lethal force? Is there enough impetus to head that way within the ADF?
It's not the ADF that's got to lead it. It's got to be the government. And the government. All the government has to do is to provide the money. All that we as a nation have to do is to provide the money. But we won't know if we are doing the right thing or enough of the right thing for both the nation, because it's not just the ADF, but both the nation and the ADF, unless we put out there an analysis of what kind of a war we are going to need to fight. Now, Chris, I understand that governments are paid to take risk, but we can't understand the risk fully of not putting money into defence and into self-reliance in the nation and resilience unless we've done this full analysis. What kind of a war are we preparing for?
Does it not make sense that by becoming a lethal force, by building our defensive capabilities, we can actually avert war in the region as well?
Well, we can certainly try to deter certain kind of acts. We will never deter a war between China and the United States, but we may deter an attack, a direct attack on this country from within that war. You know, we heard the Defence Minister today talking about a larger US military force in this country. We have key facilities in this country. If there was a war, and it is becoming more and more likely, within 3 to 5 years is my view, within 6 years is the American commander in the Indo-Pacific's view, we could deter that war, that direct attack on us, by missile defence, by good cyber, by improving the state of defences in our ports against a blockade or a mining activity. These are the things we've got to start with by saying what kind of a war are we trying to deter or win? Because if you're trying to deter, Chris, you've got to be able to win that war if to stop someone doing something against you.
Yeah, I certainly think we've got the right Defence Minister in place for those provisions. I'll leave you there. Go hard on the war that you're fighting at the moment tomorrow. Good luck, mate.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
OK, Senator Jim Molan.